the incredibly poor decision making by Cathy Engelbert, specifically with the Alyssa Thomas incident when it came to what she did to Caitlin Clark with the fist on the throat. And really, that was only part of it. There was the knee to the groin, there was the stepping over, there was Dewana Bonner, and all of that. But that was sort of what's the phrase? The straw that broke the camel's back. That is what initiated getting Congress involved. And as much as Cathy Engelbert would like to close her eyes, plug her ears, and go, nah, 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 it is not going away. If y'all had done what you should have done from day one, you wouldn't be having these problems. But instead, you have the government, you have Congress sniffing around because they have seen enough to say, hey, you know what? This is not looking so good. We might have some discrimination issues. We might have some racial issues. We might have unsafe workplace, that unsafe work environment, hostile work environment, and all of those things. And now we have Texas lawmaker says WNBA response on Caitlin Clark falls short, keeps every option on the table. The league outlined general officiating procedures, but didn't address specific incidents cited by lawmakers in its response. That sounds a lot like what we get from everyone involved in the WNBA in the first place, constantly moving goalposts. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all of your support. Hope you all having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Quick favor, like, comment, subscribe. I think we are about, 110 subscribers away from 17,000 of you wonderful people. Truly appreciate all that you do to support the channel. Like, comment, subscribe. That is all I need to keep it going and keep it growing. Let's go. Rep. August Pfluger, I believe is how you pronounce that. Chairman of the Republican Study Committee from Texas. Maybe Rhodes, Black and White Sports 2, can get an interview, being a fellow Texan. He says the WNBA's response to congressional concerns about Caitlin Clark's treatment falls short and warns that lawmakers will keep every option on the table as they continue pressing the league for answers. Cathy Engelbert may find herself testifying on Capitol Hill. We've seen that type of thing happen very many times with business people. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert responded on July 24. By the way, the letter, I believe, was sent July 7th to a letter from Pfluger and 10 other House Republicans who questioned whether the league had adequately protected Clark and held opposing players accountable for overly physical conduct. In the two-page response obtained exclusively by Outkick, Engelbert said the WNBA's top priority is the health, safety, and well-being of every player in our league, including Caitlin Clark. I believe that to be a complete and total lie. And I also will say, if it helps some of you out there, it is not just about Caitlin Clark. Obviously, this is an unprecedented event in the WNBA with someone like Caitlin Clark and her fan base. But again, and the one I cite, we can talk about Sabrina Ionescu, the treatment that she received coming in the league that was absolutely appalling. I'm not sure she would still be in the WNBA if Caitlin Clark hadn't arrived and taken a lot of that heat and pressure off her. Kelsey Plum and how she was treated, and she talked about it. She got into that league and she said black players wanted to literally take her head off, right? And of course, there's the Candace Wiggins story about how she was bullied out of the league for being straight. So this is not really new. It's just 1,000 times what we had seen in the past because of the extra brought to Caitlin Clark, because she actually brought an insanely huge fan base with her that has completely changed the trajectory of the WNBA. In the response, the commissioner outlined the league's standard procedures for reviewing officiating and potentially dangerous play, but did not address any of the Clark related incidents cited by the lawmakers individually. Doesn't surprise me one bit, and that is part of the problem. And by the way, again, separate from Caitlin Clark, I think that's a problem in general with what a lot of these leagues do when we see officiating so bad, especially nowadays when you get into the gambling aspect, and we say, what could it be besides either incompetence or corruption, usually because of gambling? And yet all we get from the league is, oh, well, we review and grade the officials. Well, that doesn't mean anything when we never see anything corrected, when we never see any action taken, when we don't see consequences for what is nothing but poor officiating or, again, corrupt officiating. Reciting the league and what you do or say you do doesn't mean a damn thing. The WNBA's response falls short of what we asked for. Unsurprisingly, Pfluger told Outkick in a statement, we didn't request a description of the league's general officiating and disciplinary procedures. We asked how those procedures have actually been applied in the specific incidents we raised involving Caitlin Clark, and the league chose not to answer that. Yes, they ignored it like we see constantly with the WNBA. Engelbert wrote that WNBA basketball operations and referee operations conduct separate reviews after every game. One review examines atypical or overly physical plays, while the other evaluates the overall performance of the officials. Again, that doesn't matter. How about give us the specifics of the official who stood there directly staring at what Alyssa Thomas did to Caitlin Clark and did not even call a regular foul on that play when it was worthy of a suspension. That is a dramatic, dramatic difference. Or the referee that stood there 3 feet from Caitlin Clark staring at her when Breanna Stewart slammed her face into Caitlin Clark's eyes and head and didn't even call a regular foul, let alone a flagrant foul. What did the review process look like? What was put on paper? Was anything said to the official? Were there any consequences for those actions? I don't care about what your rules say. I want to know how and when and where and why they are enforced. And if they aren't, why they are not. Those reviews can result in fouls being upgraded after a game, as well as fines, suspensions, or other disciplinary measures. The league also uses the reviews to inform future officiating evaluations, training, and guidance, Engelbert wrote. And I refer back to everything I just said. The commissioner continued, quote, in all instances, the league seeks to apply the WNBA rulebook and applicable disciplinary processes consistently across all games and for all players. This is absurd. Did she really think? I mean, this is a non-responsive response to what she was asked. She ignored everything that she was asked about just to recite the general rules and guidelines of the league that clearly are not being applied evenly, clearly are not being applied when it comes to Caitlin Clark. Pfluger said the league offered no supporting information to demonstrate that its rules had been applied evenly, kind of like I just said. Quote, saying you apply your rules consistently across all games and for all players is an assertion, not evidence. I love that line. Is an assertion, not evidence. And it's the league's burden to show that, not ours to assume it. He continues, until the WNBA is willing to engage with the specifics of our information requests instead of simply restating their own policies back to us, yep, our concerns remain unaddressed. We will continue to press for real answers and keep every option on the table until players are actually getting the protection the league claims they already provide. Yeah, I mean, you're just going to get them more interested, Cathy, and get a little more pressure put on you by not simply asking the questions. I think the best thing you can do to keep the government out is to step forward and even if behind the scenes have conversations with someone like Congressman Pfluger or whomever else needs to be involved and discuss it and say, hey, you know what? Here's what happened. Here's what should have happened. We have definitely missed some things. We didn't treat some things properly in the way we should. To be to be quite honest, we simply were not prepared for what Caitlin Clark entering the WNBA was going to do to the league, from the way the players handle it to the officials to myself as commissioner. And we are going to do our best to be different going forward. Of course, we haven't seen proof of that, considering what happened with Alyssa Thomas, not even a foul called. Cathy Engelbert forced by Adam Silver after the fact, and it was only a single game. And it wasn't even really that, because that was just inherent in a flagrant 2 upgrade. Pfluger and other lawmakers initially wrote to Engelbert on July 7th, like I said, her response July 29th, following several highly publicized incidents involving Clark. Their letter cited instances in which the Indiana Fever star had been hip checked, poked in the eye, and struck in the throat. All things that happened multiple times. Kennedy Carter, J.C. Sheldon, Dejanay Carrington, Marina Mabry, Diamond DeShields, Angel Reese, Brianna Stewart, Alyssa Thomas. Alyssa Thomas multiple times, by the way, and on and on and on. The WNBA later assessed Phoenix Mercury forward Alyssa Thomas a flagrant 2 foul and 1 game suspension. See, that's not true. Flagrant 2 foul, that's part of the flagrant 2 foul. She didn't get anything extra. And by the way, this was a great time and a great opportunity for the WNBA. And I said it when it happened. You want to fix a lot of these things, and you want to prove that Caitlin Clark isn't being allowed to be targeted. Boom, it happens. Immediate 10-game suspension for Alyssa Thomas. I mean, with her track record and history, that should not have been a problem. 10-game suspension for Alyssa Thomas for what she did. That ends all of that nonsense. You can say, hey, the players can scream and yell all they want. It does not matter. They are not crucial to the future of the WNBA. And I think they need to hear that. The lawmakers argued that the incidents went far beyond routine physical play and accused the league and its officials of too often failing to address the conduct or hold opposing players accountable. I just kind of covered that with Alyssa Thomas clearly not being held accountable. They asked Engelbert to explain the WNBA's process for reviewing physical hostility and violence during games, how the league holds players accountable for overly aggressive actions, including conduct directed at Clark, and what it is doing to protect players from online harassment and off court threats. Which you notice the league never ever talks about that. It only talks about those things in reference to other players because Caitlin Clark never talks about it. Caitlin Clark never plays victim. And by the way, I would like to point out in this moment that I would have had no problem whatsoever if Alyssa Thomas had been given an extra suspension on top of her flagrant 2 ejection when she did what she did to Angel Reese. That is another, like, it's not all Caitlin Clark. The league can clean up some of this other stuff with other player incidents as well. Alyssa Thomas should have been suspended for 2, 3, 4, 5 games right then. Maybe we don't even get the Caitlin Clark incident if we had seen more discipline in this league throughout. The letter also said lawmakers were concerned by reports suggesting some of Clark's treatment could be racially motivated and warned that a failure to prevent discrimination, retaliation, or a hostile work environment could raise questions under federal workplace and civil rights laws. The lawmakers requested a response by July 24th, which is when they got it. Now, to that point, that's what I like to say. People, and it's unfortunate that it was all Republican lawmakers because that adds an extra element of politics to it. I wish it could have been bipartisan, but it wasn't. That being said, this is what I think a lot of people are missing because of that. It doesn't have to be Congress getting involved because there are questions under laws, federal workplace and civil rights laws that already exist that could get places like the Department of Justice involved that is completely separate from Congress. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Engelbert met the deadline, yeah, barely, but her response did not address the alleged racial motivation, discuss any specific play involving Clark, or provide comparative information about how the league's officiating and disciplinary procedures have been applied to different players. The response also did not say whether the WNBA conducted a separate review in response to the congressional inquiry. I'm going to guess no, they absolutely did not. During the interview, Pfluger said the burden was on the WNBA to provide information demonstrating that its standards were enforced fairly. He argued that allowing a perception of unequal treatment to persist would damage confidence in the league's ability to govern itself. Yeah, that's a problem for the WNBA. They just continue to make things worse. This was a great opportunity for Cathy Engelbert, as I said, even behind the scenes, quietly. They don't. She could say there's no. If people found out about it, she could say there's not going to be any public comment, and talk to some of these people behind the scenes, make some admissions of some missteps, and put a plan together as to how it's going to be corrected going forward. When asked during the interview to identify specific evidence supporting the original letter's suggestion of racial motivation, Pfluger did not cite an example. He instead broadened his argument to whether every WNBA player receives equal protection under the league rules. Quote, it is about everybody. The burden of proof should be on the commissioner, should be on the league to provide evidence of how players on different teams and from different areas are treated. His latest statement did not identify a specific congressional action he intends to pursue next, but his pledge to keep every option on the table leaves open the possibility of additional information requests, hearings, or other scrutiny. WNBA didn't respond, of course. Women's sports are at a turning point, Pfluger said. How the WNBA treats its own biggest star will show whether the league is actually committed to protecting the players carrying it forward. Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing, man. Cathy Engelbert needs to lay down the law, okay? She does not work for the players. She does not need players to like them. In fact, I have said that to my players as a coach, even with young players, and say, look, you need to understand something. This is important. It's great that we can get along. It'd be great if we could have a positive relationship, but you also have to understand that it's my job to help you, yes, enjoy and love the sport, but become the best possible player you can be. And if that means sometimes doing or saying things that you might not like very much, so be it. That's just the reality of the situation. And Cathy needs to lay down the law, maybe talk to the so called leadership of the players' union and say, hey, you know what? We're done. We've had enough. Here's how it's going to be going forward. We're going to embrace Caitlin Clark being the face of the league. The stuff on the court is going to stop. If it doesn't stop, the punishment is going to be so sort of severe. I see a flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark. You're going to have a 10-game suspension without pay. Period. That is it. I'm not going to hear y'all yapping about it. We are going to grow this league, and we are going to do it by embracing who Caitlin Clark is and by embracing Caitlin Clark's fan base. Enough is enough. You will not be missed if you are to leave. Caitlin Clark leaving might destroy the WNBA. The rest of it, well, maybe a couple others, maybe Sophie Cunningham. I'm gonna say that's about it right now. I mean, I guess I could throw some flowers to Paige, maybe Olivia Miles, but look, all of y'all, the most hostile of you players, we don't need you. You will not be missed. No one will even realize you're gone, and those that do will not care. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Go have the day you deserve. I will talk to you later.